Hello beautiful people and welcome back to a new video. My name is Evelin Barta and today I'm going to be talking about Pluto entering Aquarius. Now this is a very important transit, the most important transit of the year, because it means big changes in our society and the way we are viewing ourselves as well. So collectively and individually as well. So I will be talking about Pluto throughout the history and the past few years when it changed signs, what kind of things were dominant in the collective, what themes were coming up related to our societal structures and then societal issues as well, societal problems. So I'm going to be talking about that and then also what Pluto is and what Aquarius is. So it's important for us to understand what Aquarius is standing for and what is the combination with Pluto, because many people are really afraid of this transit and are afraid of Pluto. It's a very small planet, but it's also a very powerful one. And whenever it's transiting a sign, there's a crisis situation in those areas, but then also a lot of empowerment as well. So I'm not gonna do a reading at the end of this video because I did a reading on my other channel, Esoterica with Evelyn. So I'm gonna link the reading up here, and then if you have not watched that, then please do it because that's gonna give you a better overview about what we can expect in the next 20 years. All right, so Pluto enters Aquarius on the 23rd of March, and today is the 20th, so is the day of the equinox. And we are approaching Aries season as well. And Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn on the 11th of June 2023. So it will spend only 3 months there in Aquarius this year. And then it will go back to Aquarius on the 21st of January 2024. And it will remain there until 2044 January the 19th. So whenever Pluto enters a particular sign, our lives and society as a whole as well is changing in unprecedented ways. So that is happening every 20 years. And because Pluto is doing this retrograde motion, it spends some time in the new sign, but then it retrogrades back into the other one and then back to the new sign. So it goes back and forth between the new one and the one that it spent time like previously. And that is helping us, like the first few years of this transit are basically helping us to acclimatize to the changes that Pluto is bringing in our lives and in the society as well. So things will not happen straight away and things will not change straight away, but then we will definitely get a glimpse of what is to come in the next 20 years. So Pluto is the planet of destruction and recreation as well. And that is why many people are really afraid of that, because Pluto is ruling the 8th house, is ruling Scorpio, which is the underworld, which is secrets, is the occult. It is empowerment as well, is power, is death and rebirth. So in the Roman mythology as well, Pluto is a very, very powerful character, the most powerful one after Jupiter. And it's the underworld ruler. And that is why he's responsible for death and rebirth and the total transformation of what has been. And whenever we are experiencing a transformation, that always starts with a crisis situation. So Pluto is the planet of crisis as well. And it likes to empower, but it likes to exaggerate as well sometimes. So it is definitely the planet of empowerment, and it will correct areas where there's an excess of power or where there's abuse of power or excess in the abuse of power. But it will also empower areas where there's a deficit. So it has advantages and disadvantages. It has positives and negatives as well. And nothing is really negative because Pluto will definitely serve our expansion and our growth as well, both individually and then collectively. So Pluto is a new planet. It was only discovered in the 1930s when it was in Cancer. So we can say that no one is alive that ever experienced Pluto being in Aquarius. It takes 248 years for Pluto to go around the zodiac, so to go around the sun and to come back in the same position as it was 248 years ago. So there's no person in the world that ever experienced their Pluto return because no one is living that long. But then there are countries that are experiencing their Pluto return For example, the United States started to have its Pluto return last year, transiting its second house, which is the banks, financial system, money. So the United States will be experiencing a big transformation in terms of finances, the financial system, values, because the second house is about that as well. And Pluto is ruling investments, and taxes. It is the planet of investment, of banks, of big money. So this will intensify the whole thing. So there are big transformations that are coming not only for the United States, but for the whole world by Pluto entering Aquarius. And last time Pluto transited Aquarius was a massive change in the world. And that happened between 1778 and 1798, which was a time of the French Revolution. And then also the American Constitution was written at that time. So Pluto gives power to the sign that it's in, but it's also, as I said, is bringing transformation. And what is Aquarius standing for? So Aquarius is the sign of the collective, is the sign of the masses, is creativity, is the sign of people, friendships, networking. So everything that is related to people and to collaboration with people. So Pluto will give power to the people in the next 20 years. And these were the themes that the collective was experiencing when Pluto was in Aquarius last time as well. Because we, the people, was the first modern representation and the expression of the Aquarius entity. So everything that Aquarius is standing for. We, the people, was the first expression of what is not to have a king or not to have a ruler, but to be self-governed, or not to have a government that is governing people, but the people are governing themselves. Now, this one was coming with loads of shadow sides, because even though there were positive intentions of giving power to people, then the whole thing went to the other extreme as well. And that is the shadow side of Pluto. Sometimes it exaggerates and it gives power to the archetype of that particular sign that it's in. So I want to talk about in a different video. So I will make a video in the future about the shadow sides of Pluto in Aquarius and the downsides of that. So yeah, I'm planning to do that. Please let me know if you're interested, and I will definitely make a video about that. So as I said, it was discovered in the 1930s. So it's a relatively new planet, and that's very interesting because whenever the collective is ready and when humanity has crossed a certain threshold of consciousness, then new celestial bodies and new planets are being discovered. So Pluto was a sign for that we became ready for the changes, like on a collective level, and we became ready for the knowledge as well that Pluto will give us, and the lessons as well. And to be conscious about those lessons and to be aware of those lessons as well. So we are definitely reaching a point in our collective consciousness where we are becoming more and more aware. And we are becoming more and more aware of what Pluto is standing for. And because Pluto is ruling Scorpio, and Scorpio is the sign of the underground, of background rulers, background people, the hidden ruling class of the world that is not being seen or hasn't been seen up to this point. So Scorpio is the planet of secrets, but it's also of the hidden occult, like esoteric and occult influences. And Pluto is standing for those things as well. So therefore, it is the planet of powerful people in the background, so powerful elite and the ruling class. And in the past 20 years, it was given a lot of power to the ruling class, to the archetype of Capricorn, the authorities, the military forces, police, everything that is standing for those authority forces and that father archetype of Capricorn. But I will be talking about that as well a little bit later. So what is happening now is that we are becoming aware of how these occult influences and hidden power structures, occult invisible forces are influencing the collective. And the collective is Aquarius. Okay, so Pluto is ruling those hidden forces, those orchestrated changes, and Aquarius is the people. So orchestrated changes that are related to people. And this is what we are becoming aware of. This is what is seeing the light of the day. And we will see how those things are related to the banks, to the financial institutions, because that is Pluto, again, that is the 8th house, investment. And then also because Aquarius is a visionary sign and likes technology, being ruled by Uranus, but then also Saturn. It will give us a taste about how we're going to be influenced as a collective through technology and changes in the financial sector, like technological changes in the financial sector and the digitalizing of the financial world as well. So Pluto is one of the slow-moving outer planets, and whenever an outer planet like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are entering a new zodiac sign, they are often striking historical events that are being associated with that. So changes, things to remember, kind of. So one of these is, for example, when Pluto entered Sagittarius. So cases of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church became increasingly public in the 90s as a result of this transit. And then there was the big earthquake in Japan, Fukushima, when Neptune transited Aries. I think it was back in 2011 or something like that. I know that it was exactly on my birthday, so it was in Pisces season. And then again, like Pluto being in Sagittarius, it was the peak of the globalization, like Pluto being the peak of something, you know, power, exaggeration of something. And then globalization is Sagittarius, you know, because Sagittarius is that sign that is larger than life. It is expansion, is the world. And then the past years of Pluto being in Capricorn was about the power structures, the already existing establishment, and then hierarchical institutions running into trouble, which is becoming more and more clear, right? And Pluto has not yet completely exited Capricorn, so we are still dealing with that. So the feelings of power and also powerlessness are the domains of Pluto. And with each Pluto transit, we have to deal with the shadow parts of ourselves and dissociated parts as well that we don't want to look at. Personality traits that we dissociated from because of our traumas in the childhood. And then also these traits became traits because of coping mechanisms. And then also trauma responses. So these are the things that we need to understand and need to be aware of. So it's a little bit like facing our demons when Pluto is transiting a sign. All the darkness in ourselves and everything that is ugly within ourselves as well. So we have to fall in love with the ugly parts of ourselves. And this is what Pluto is teaching us. And this is what very much is being translated in the collective as well. Like Pluto being the sign of the shadows, as I said, the underground, the ugly parts, and then powerlessness as well. And then Aquarius being the people, seeing that within other people as well, seeing that in the collective. Like the projection of ourselves is playing out in the collective. The projection of the individual is playing out in the collective. All the ugly and shadow parts, all the narcissistic traits that we have within us is being played out in the big screen of the collective. And these people that are forming this ruling class, the global elite, are just extreme projections of our inner world. So I said that many times, and I keep saying that myself and everyone else is both the victim and the perpetrator. We all have those narcissistic traits. And I feel like this big Saturn in Pisces transit as well, these next 3 years will teach us about that as well. Being disillusioned, like what I see within, I see without as well. I don't see the ugly parts of the world unless those ugly parts are within me as well. So the power is within us, and the power is the people's power. And if we make changes within ourselves, and we make friends with our demons, which are really just like the egoic parts of us, then we will be able to fall in love with the ugly parts of the world as well, of the society, of the collective. We will be able to integrate that cancer, you know, those cancer cells of our environment as well, of our collective, which has led us for hundreds of years to this separation consciousness. So it's time to integrate that. And getting rid of those ugly parts will not solve our problems. Therefore, getting rid of the power structures in a classical sense will not solve our problems. It's like getting rid of the ego of the collective. We don't have to get rid of the ego of the collective. We have to see that it's serving us as well. and we have to use it to our benefit instead of dissociating from it, instead of patronizing it, instead of demonizing it. We have to see it as part of ourselves. Otherwise, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. Also, it's very interesting that many people are associating this transit with the age of Aquarius. And there are many expectations that are being attached to Pluto being in Aquarius. And those expectations can go in a very extreme direction as well. And I noticed that these expectations are having to do and are coming down to the coping mechanisms of the masses or trauma response of the masses, because there are groups of people that are seeing this as a utopia, as like total transformation and harmony and brotherhood on the planet. And then there's the other group that is seeing like a final decline and the destruction of the existing world and of our culture as well. So more like an apocalyptic, it has like an apocalyptic vibe, the way they are looking at it. So one view is rooted in escapism and idealism, like, oh my God, like we are in this 5D consciousness and only those that are in 5D will survive this. And then the other one is rooted in like this apocalyptic view, this pessimism. And we have to understand that none of these extremes are really reflecting reality, and none of them are reflecting what Pluto is standing for and what Aquarius is standing for. So Pluto is in trine with Uranus from summer 2024 until summer 2029, which will shape together with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction from 2025 until 2026, the whole rest of this decade from 2024 on. And Pluto and Uranus together are the energy of extremes, going in an extreme direction. And Uranus is like a very revolutionary planet, is like a very revolutionary energy. And if we want to understand what is to come, then we have to look at the revolutionary energies of the 60s. And the 60s were about equality in sexuality, so like more freedom in sexuality, the rejection of war, a more ecological view of our environment. So these kind of themes might emerge as a result of Pluto and then Uranus. But then that comes with shadow sides as well. And that's why I want to talk about the shadow sides of Pluto, and especially in Aquarius, because there was, you know, at that time, the rise of this civil rights movement, of feminism, which went to an extreme direction as well. And then we are still seeing and feeling the effects of that. But let's see what Pluto transiting different signs throughout the history, and maybe starting from the 60s means. So Pluto was in Virgo starting from 1958 until 1970. And Virgo is standing for the workforce, like work, the work environment, daily habits, health, habits related to work, like how we are viewing ourselves as a workforce. And this is what this transit was about as well, as about the decimation of the workforce in the manufacturing sector. And especially in the UK, there was a big decline of this workforce, the manufacturing employment decline that still hasn't recovered ever since, which meant less human workers. So it was really like the beginning of automation, like the introduction of machines in the workplace. And then later on, like as a later development, the invention of the industrial computers. So this was the more ruling theme and the most important theme of Pluto being in Virgo. So there was a rethinking of the workplace, how we can make the workplace more productive, right? But that came with shadow sides as well, as everything. And then the 1970s was about Pluto in Libra. So starting from 1971 until 1984. So that transit was about the re-evaluation of personal relationships, because Libra is standing for relationships, is being ruled by Venus. So relationships, gender politics, there was a lot that was coming out about genders. The increasing divorces in the early 70s was about this transit as well. And that occurred at the same time as the feminist movement, which caused a lot of social and economic upheaval as well. And as I said, we are feeling and seeing the effects of that up to this point. because that created a very distorted belief, for example, within the masses, and unhealthy beliefs as well about women not needing men. Like, why do we need a man when we can do things that men do as well? Like, I do have the right to do things what men do as well. So that resulted almost like in the eradication of man, like this masculine energy. So we are not only talking about up to this point today about unhealthy masculinity, but we are talking about unhealthy femininity as well, because starting from the 70s, women and mothers started almost to castrate their sons. So that is why there's a big confusion in the collective consciousness now about what the gender roles are. So Libra is striving for gender equality, but the shadow side of that is being felt today as well, because this feminine movement created such a distorted belief that women are shooting themselves in the foot. So it's like, I can do what a man does, but at the same time, I'm resenting men if they don't do anything for me. So where all the men disappeared. So this whole process started in the 70s, where women felt so resentful that they revenged themselves on their son. And now this generation is unable to provide, or is afraid of intimacy, or is afraid of commitment. So men are afraid of commitment, many of them, because of that. And we had Pluto in Scorpio in the 80s, so 1984 until 1996, and that is the period when the millennial generation was born, so myself as well. And that period was about a big tension between America and Russia, for example. So there was this Armageddon type of scaremongering within the masses that was also very present in the media as well, in these Armageddon type of movies. So that was filtered through popular culture. And that period was about sex, like Scorpio, because Scorpio is ruling sex as well, intimacy, the 8th house. So sex becoming dangerous, a dangerous pursuit in some quarters of the society, with the emergence of AIDS, with the emergence of HIV virus. But that period was also about the forming of subcultures, because Scorpio is about subcultures as well, like the underground of the society, the rebels of the society. And that is why this millennial generation is playing such a big part in this awakening process as well, because we are the first generation, let's just say, that are not afraid of these Armageddon type of societal events. So we are the generation that has been through, probably in past lives as well, cataclysm. And that is why the millennials are playing a big part in the changing of these societal structures. The establishment being ruled by the generation of Pluto in Leo, which was before Pluto in Libra. So those are the people that are in power that the millennials don't like. The millennials are like, you know what, you're not going to rule us. You can rule whoever you want, but you're not going to rule us. Like, enough is enough, kind of. And then 1996 and 2008, so in that period, was about Pluto in Sagittarius. And again, like, Sagittarius is standing for philosophy, beliefs, religion. And Pluto in Sagittarius was underpinning plenty of apocalyptic thinking by two major countries, two major powers, the UK and the US. So, for example, in the US, the Bush administration was very much influenced by the Christian right. And also, as I was saying earlier, cases of sexual abuse saw the light of the day about the Catholic Church. So the church received scrutiny, and also there was a lot of religious inspired terrorism all over the news. So we heard a lot about Al-Qaeda and all these terrorist organizations, Osama bin Laden. There was this period of war on terror that started with 9/11. So that was the main theme of Pluto being in Sagittarius. And then in between 2008 and 2023 or 2024, our lives were impacted by Pluto in Capricorn. So our lives were changed by this transit. So Capricorn is the father archetype, is like the traditional, patriarchal structure, power structures, governments, political elite, like the global elite, dictatorship, police, military, financial institutions, and then big corporations. So these are all being ruled by Capricorn. So in other words, it is about the establishment. It is about the system. And Pluto always exaggerates the archetype of the sign that is being in, exaggerated the archetype of Capricorn. So it gave power to that archetype. It gave power to these political structures as well, to the global elite. And it gave also power to the financial institutions. And interestingly, the big financial crash happened in 2008, just as Pluto moved into Capricorn. And then now what we are seeing is almost like a karmic payback of that particular event. So it's almost like the banking system is paying back karma from 2008. And now we can realize how much power the banking system had, how much power these financial institutions had over us, over the masses. So Pluto is about giving power, but then also exposing the shadows and the corruption in high places, and then shedding light on those areas that were hidden. So Capricorn was about fixed structures, regulations, restrictions, laws. And what happened in 2020 was almost like a peak time. And the appearance of COVID was very necessary in order for Pluto to start exposing the corruption that is happening in the area of authorities and the abuse of power that is happening there. And then also like slowly exposing things about financial institutions too. And entering in Aquarius will mean more like the breaking of the rules, like balancing out things as well. And then also balancing out the differences when it comes to justice and freedom. So for example, in 1778 and 1798, the societal changes were about bringing an end to the already existing estate-based society, like separation of church and the state, civil rights were formulated, and then freedom trades were introduced. So Aquarius did have very good intentions. However, it came with the downsides as well, and then with shadow sides as well, the whole thing. So with Pluto in Aquarius, it won't erupt total chaos in the world, and it won't bring total transformation in terms of world peace and then harmony. It won't bring all of a sudden this world utopia. Things will happen slowly, because it will bring a lot of awareness in injustice, in inequality. It will make us to question previous beliefs, previous values, previous power structures, previous forms of governments, hierarchies in companies, in institutions as well, corporations, a new awareness in bureaucratic processes and what those are and how those were influencing our lives in a negative way. We will start questioning international treaties and then the world structure in and of itself. And if there's any imbalance or if there's any abuse of power in those areas, that can, yes, lead to revolution and rebellion. We might expect a lot of rebellion, but that is something that needs to happen in order for the transformation to take place. So we can expect like similar themes to what happened at the last Pluto in Aquarius transit with the French Revolution and then the American Constitution being written. So Pluto in Aquarius means more freedom and decentralization. So maybe the revolutionizing of the internet, which is Aquarius, and then also digitalization. And the negative shadow side of that, which is already happening, can be the centralizing of data or bringing information under control, which we are already hearing about, that they want to take these whole copyright things more seriously on social media as well. Or you can complete a jail sentence for using someone else's information or someone else's material. But the positive side of that can be overcoming censorship and then overcoming limitations, the limitations of the internet, and bringing more justice there and more equality, more balance. Overcoming technology-related limitations, like for example, the virtual reality, or realizing that if we don't pay attention to how much technology we are using or how much we are allowing this new generation to use technology, how we are educating this new generation about the using of technology, that can have like disastrous repercussions, disastrous consequences. So there's a lot of breakthrough that can happen in that area to become more aware of what is the middle ground, like how much technology can help us with bettering our lives, and how much it wants to replace us as organic human beings, which this transhumanist movement is about, replacing the organic human with machines. And machines are not necessarily meaning freedom for the collective or bettering the lives of the masses. They can actually mean the lack of freedom. So with Pluto in Aquarius, things will not get automatically better, but then the collective consciousness and awareness will shift to these matters. And we will see particularly clearly where there's injustice, where there's unfairness, and where there's a lack of freedom. We have an opportunity to see that there's no longer politics that determines what happens, but more like very powerful corporations like the World Economic Forum, or like big corporations and private corporations like Amazon, private organizations that are controlling the masses, like the Federal Reserve, right? We are seeing that it's actually a private organization. So we will see, and we will be able to understand that this has never been about the people, as the American Constitution was saying, or what the French Revolution was standing for. This has been always about power and control. We will be able to see also the disastrous consequences of this woke culture, of the wokeism, the gender fluidity, and the consequences, the unhealthy consequences of the confusion in gender roles, the distortion of the truth about what a healthy masculinity and what a healthy femininity is. And we will be able to correct the mistakes of the previous generations, like Pluto in Libra, for example, about femininity and feminism, or Pluto in Capricorn, about giving power to the authorities. So it's a great opportunity to focus more on the collective, on what benefits us as a collective, because Aquarius is the sign of brotherhood and embodies the power of the collective and humanity itself, humanity at large. In the zodiac cycle, the soul has passed through the social and personal ambitions of Capricorn to arrive at humanity itself. This is what Aquarius is standing for. So the first signs of the zodiac are more about the personal and individual ambitions. And then the last signs of the zodiac are about the collective power, the collective ambitions. So the group ego is going from the mentality of me and myself and providing for myself and having the zero-sum game, like this narcissistic view, to the us and the we as a collective. Like life and reality is being perceived through the lens of us, through the lens of we, and how we can find solutions that are win-win for everyone. So every Pluto transit always brings something radical and with big ripple effect. But some changes will revert as well. And based on your ascendant, Pluto will transit one of your houses at this time. So check out which of your houses Pluto is transiting in Aquarius, and then you will experience changes and then maybe a lot of empowerment in those areas. So maybe a death and rebirth in those areas, but Pluto always leaves us with more wisdom and with lessons and like a total transformation of our soul in that particular area. So very exciting times are ahead, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Pluto is not a planet to be afraid of, but to be grateful for. We will definitely shift an octave in terms of the collective, social groups, or creative vision, and then collective vision as well. However, the song won't change entirely, and the changes will not happen straight away. We have a lot of time to acclimatize to these new energies. So guys, this is what I wanted to say today about Pluto in Aquarius. I hope it resonated. If it did, please subscribe to my channel. And also, as I said, I will make a video about the downsides of this very important transit. And those of you that have not subscribed yet to my other channel, which is called Esoterica with Evelyn, please do that, because I'm sharing readings, collective readings as well, readings about different topics. And then also, if you want to support my work, you can do it on Patreon, where I'm doing podcasts and discussions about different topics and what is happening in our society. I'm also sharing readings that are not on YouTube, And if you want to book a personal reading, then you will find information about that down below in the description box, or you can just email me as well. Thank you so much, everybody who is supporting my work already. Your contributions mean a lot to me. Take care, everybody, and I cannot wait to see you next time.